All right, Madea fans, today was the day for the world release on Netflix of a Madea Homecoming, which I'm not even going to call the final Madea film because that was the whole tagline for the family funeral as well as the farewell play. I watched it earlier this evening, start to finish. I rewound it a couple times during certain parts, but the question is, what did I think? A lot of people wanted my review early because I was going to do it either over the weekend or maybe Monday, give people enough time to watch the film for themselves, maybe once or twice. And I was probably going to watch it one more time before talking about it, but I had a good time. I think Tyler Perry, in terms of his goal, which was to bring laughter to people, I think mission accomplished. And I feel like this film itself is probably one of my favorite Madea films. I think I might do a video going over, my personal ranking of the 12th or 13th Madea film. I might do that just for fun. But if you watch the farewell play, you pretty much know a majority, if not all, of the story beats of this movie. So I didn't really take down notes during the movie. I actually watched it with my nephew, and like I said, most of the movie is just like the play. So I wrote down kind of like the good and the bad, or the pros or the cons. And I guess right off the rip, people want to know, what do I score the film? And I was debating whether I would give it an 8 out of 10 or an 8.5 out of 10. But I think this movie is a solid 8. And I do feel like there were some things that I don't know if I would necessarily say they were awful or bad, but I feel like they could have been done just a tad bit better. So maybe for the sake of flipping things around, if you will, I think I'll talk about the bad stuff first, or maybe the things I didn't like or I feel like could have been better before talking about the good. Because don't get me wrong, there were a lot of good references and the possibility of a Miss Brown Madea project in the future. But yeah, I feel like a Madea Homecoming is a film that the family will enjoy, the whole family. And I definitely see myself rewatching it probably again over the weekend. So before we get started, please make sure you take a moment to hit the thumbs up button to show you like the video. Hit subscribe and hit the bell notification icon and select all. That way you don't miss out whenever I post content on the channel. Follow me on social media. Links are in the description below. And if you would like to donate to the channel, feel free to do so on PayPal or Cash App. So the brief synopsis is: Madea prepares to welcome her family, who have all come into town to celebrate her great-grandson's graduation from college, when some hidden secrets threaten to destroy the joyous family homecoming. Mrs. Brown, who is pretty much the Irish version of Madea from Mrs. Brown's Boys, is I guess you could say, the comedic partner of Madea during the film. Before I get into the bad, I will say this. What I really feel made this movie shine was this was probably one of the best Madea films where Madea was in top form in terms of giving out solid advice and wisdom to those around her. But like I said, let's talk about the bad first. The runtime, I believe, is about 105 minutes, give or take, which is 1 hour and 45-ish minutes and some change. Pretty much nearly 2 hours. Pretty much, 1 and 2/3 of 2 hours. I don't feel that the runtime was completely necessary. I know that some people who watched the film Tuesday during the virtual screening, and other people who watched the movie early today on the 25th, were saying, hey, I feel like the movie was like an 8 or a 9. It did feel slow in some places. I will say there weren't moments I would say felt incredibly slow. It just felt like there were moments where I feel time could have been better utilized. And I have about 4 different scenes I feel could have been either retooled or a scene that could have been added in to really help things out. Now, for one, I don't know if there were any like deleted scenes or anything. I didn't check because I haven't had Netflix since the last Dave Chappelle special. And I forgot, like on Disney Plus, there's the section where if you click on a movie or show, sometimes they'll have a different button for you to hit, which is like extras, like interviews or deleted scenes. So maybe there were scenes that I'm about to mention that I wish were in the film, but they got cut for one reason or another. But Tim's graduation speech, I feel like that speech could have been retooled. Also, a spoiler alert, but then again, if you watch the play, this is a Madea film. Is it really necessary to give a spoiler warning? But Tim's graduation speech, there was absolutely no reason for him to air his family's dirty laundry in front of his entire graduating class. And it was mentioned that this film took place in 2021. So I feel like they probably, and as well as COVID and social distancing, I feel like it's safe to assume that this graduation was also virtual, because I remember all the times I graduated back in like late 2000s, between 2000, mid 2010s. They had the physical graduation where you could show up, as well as the virtual graduation for those who are like long distance. So in front of countless people, Tim literally exposed the fact that his best friend was seeing his mother behind his back. And he reveals that he's that he's a gay man, and he just said this in front of everybody. And it's like, thankfully you had the characters on the sidelines like Tim and Davi's family calling him out. It's like, why would you say that? Well, you ain't got to tell that to everybody. Some stuff stays at home. And I really didn't get the point of his speech, because he got out there and ripped up his speech, and that made no sense. I feel like it could have been retooled, at least to the point of thanking his family for supporting him, just basically having a strong support system behind him no matter where he goes. I mean, I feel like that would have been a better message than, hey, I'm just going to tell about my mom who got a divorce, and my dad who struggled but helped out, and that kind of stuff. You literally humiliated your family for no reason. I don't think that was a good move. Speaking of Tim, the scene where he came out to his family, I want to be honest here, I'm surprised Tyler wrote it where it was just done. It was just, he said it. They pretty much didn't react in a bad way. Like, Tim, we always knew, even since you were little, it's no big deal. It's 2021. It's okay. I think Davi was telling him that at the beginning of the film. Like, it's a new world, open-minded people, yada, yada, yada. And that was about it. I mean, it felt like in the play where I think Tim, I believe that was his name in the play as well, he was assumed to be messing around with his roommate, but in actuality, he said, no, I'm not gay. I'm just, Tim, don't worry about it. And yeah, it was pretty much something that I thought Tyler would draw out to the final scene, but thankfully they did it towards the middle of the movie. What was it? After they went to Red Lobster, and then they were all in the backyard. So it was nice they just, got that over with quickly. But the scene itself did feel a bit dragged out because of all the constant interruptions of the other characters. What was her name? Sylvia, and Tim's father, Richard. That just kind of went on a bit too long for my taste. But yeah, when Madea pulled out the gun and then they went to that hotel, that was actually pretty funny. But another scene that I feel, well, actually, something else I felt was on the negative side. The cheap and terrible looking transitional scenes. I feel like the first one was when they were coming from Red Lobster. I think Richard was just standing in the living room area of Medea's house because Joe, I think, let him in. We saw Richard pop up on screen out of nowhere. And then like the, I guess you could say, the set piece of Medea's living room was cut up like puzzle pieces, and they randomly popped up, and then they came together, and then that was the transition. And then there was a scene where I think Tim and Madea were leaving the basketball court, and thank you for blowing up that video, the video where it was just a picture of Tim and Madea on the basketball court, and I just talked about it, how this scene was probably a serious discussion scene, and that video is almost at 30,000 hits. I can't thank you enough for that. But regardless, the transition for that was, a bunch of basketballs falling to like the ground. There was a lot of bad CGI in the transitions. I feel like it's the best way to put it. It felt like, middle school student learns how to use PowerPoint for the first time. I feel like the transitions could have been done a bit better, or, felt more natural. And I was going to talk about this in the good section because I didn't mind it, but when Mr. Brown is on fire during the opening scene, it's clearly CGI fire, but the scene is so funny, I didn't care. So I'm not putting that as a con. I just wanted to mention it because it was noticeable. So going back to like runtime and a couple of, well, actually a few character moments that I felt could have helped here. For one, Laura was pretty much not caring about the fact that her friend Sylvia was getting married to her ex-husband Richard, because she was like, nope, I'm focusing on my baby Tim. This is his graduation weekend. But of course, if you saw the play, it's because we knew that she was messing around with Tim's roommate. Not only that, she eventually figures out that, wait a minute, Sylvia must have been messing around with Richard while we were still married, due to the fact that they're about to get married, because the timeline's not really matching up here. Things were going on without her knowing it. But then again, it was also mentioned that her and Davi were seeing each other for like 2 years. So how the divorce apparently was recent, based off how Madea and all the family members were checking in with Laura, due to the fact that Richard almost left her completely high and dry. So yeah, I don't really know how that matches up, but I feel like there should have been a moment, or at least a scene, where it was just Laura and Sylvia talking, and that was going to happen, but then Madea interjected saying, hey, y'all about to get married in public, so you can say anything to Laura in public as well. This was at like the cookout to celebrate the graduation. But yeah, that scene, it definitely would have helped just to kind of get Laura's perspective of how long has this been going on, what's happening. Because we do have that moment from the play where she pretty much says, hey, you know what? I'm going to go to your law firm. I'm going to tell them what you did, because since you represented me in order to, divorce Richard, you made it so no wonder he came out okay, where I didn't feel like I got anything as compensation or what I felt I deserved. But when they find out what's going on, it's your behind. Also, I think in the play, wasn't Tim supposed to be like an intern at the law firm that Sylvia works at? At least I think that's what it was. I felt like the play really did some things a little bit better than the movie. Also, aside from Laura and Sylvia getting a scene, I feel like the character who was kind of robbed the most of any sort of real development was Ellie. And no, I'm not talking about Ellie from The Oval, portrayed by Candace Maxwell, who I believe was a DJ Dime in All the Queen's Men. I think her character was really just there for representing the Black Lives Matter / defund the police movement, where she's a cop and she's Laura's sister, also Cora's daughter. No, I'm not even going to try to get into the continuity of, wait, how many children does Cora have? How many great nieces, great nephews that Madea has? I'm not doing that because I honestly do not care. I feel like every movie, there's always another branch added to the Madea family tree. So please do not ask me how these people connect. I'm just going to go with the flow of the movie. Okay, are we cool? So Ellie was there for really two things: to represent Black people and the antagonizing dynamic between police and Black people, as well as to have a moment where the defund the police movement was called out for being ridiculous. And that was pretty much it. I think what would have really helped would have been, let's say at the beginning of the film, where we see Tim and Davi driving, going to Medea's house. Let's say they got pulled over by a policeman, and let's just say it was Eddie from If Loving You Was Wrong, just like it was for the Madea family funeral. I think that would have been great if Joel Rush would have reprised his role as Edward and pulled them over, and they had a pretty negative experience. I'm not saying that Davi and Tim needed to be beaten down or anything, but they just could have had a negative experience, mainly due because they were Black. And as a result, I feel like it really would have given Tim more of a motivation to side with Joe at the Red Lobster dinner, where he pretty much showed up in the Black Lives Matter, basically Black Panther attire to represent everything anti-police as a Black man. That, and even better, if we would have seen a scene of Ellie perhaps doing her job, just showing that there are cops that are doing the right thing. They follow the law, they enforce the law, but at the same time, there are good cops just like there are bad cops. So let's say it's Ellie, maybe even Ellie and one of her partners, and maybe one or two other cops on the job. Let's say they're just doing their job. They help somebody out, or they give somebody a ticket, but it's something that they deserve because, oh, you ran a red light or something like that. And they have a pleasant encounter with the civilian they're either helping or giving a ticket to. And then, all is well. But then you have some random citizens, let's just say they're random black people, who like jeer at them, throw stuff at them, basically make their job harder, despite the fact that, hey, you know what? One of you coppers killed my cousin or something like that. Basically, just because there was one bad cop who did something to a friend or relative of a citizen, that citizen hates all cops. So before you even get to the Red Lobster scene and you have that Black Lives Matter protesting thing, defund the police, it really would have added more weight to see why these people have the perspective they do. Tim, in regards to his negative experience with a cop at the beginning of the film, and Ellie, someone who is doing their job, but at the same time, there are people like Joe who take, hearsay and trending topics and utilize that to be anti-police. Because I did love the scene in the Red Lobster, but I wish that the scene had more weight behind it, because it felt like after that particular scene where Madea used the example of hitting the alarm on Joe's car, help, call the police. Oh, wait, didn't you say defund the police? Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, he say defund the police. But as soon as something goes popping, you get robbed or your stuff is missing, who you going to call? So after that, Ellie just kind of faded into the background. Obviously she's pissed off at like Sylvia and Richard, but her character, I felt, could have had so much more if scenes of, like, let's say a protest, or hell, I said Eddie pulled over Tim at the beginning of the film, but maybe there was a protest at the college they went to. It's just one of those things where perhaps there was a dilemma where Tim was deciding whether or not to participate in a protest because that could jeopardize his valedictorian. Like, hey, I'm valedictorian, but being at this protest could possibly make the school do this or that or be reprimanded. But I know Tyler said one of the points of the movie was not to poke fun at the serious things he would bring up, such as people coming out to their family, Black Lives Matter, police brutality. But just because you're not making fun of it doesn't mean you shouldn't put in the movie to add more weight to the story. So it didn't really bring down the film for me, but I wish it just had that little bit more. One thing about the film I'll say is this: there were a lot of great moments where, especially like Madea, would give great words of wisdom, or, two characters would have a great moment, but it felt like the wrong characters were having that conversation. Like I said before, we should have had a Laura, Sylvia conversation, even a one-on-one between Tim and Ellie. No Joe, no Madea, where, it was, because Ellie is Tim's aunt, right? So basically, Tim could have talked about what happened with the cop, Eddie, and then Ellie could talk about what happened with the citizens, because it's like, there are those who, were wrong by the cops. So yeah, they say defund the police, but guess what? Criminals are also saying the same thing. So what's going to happen when it's the Wild Wild West? That way we could have had a healthy discussion, because Madea, this is a Madea movie, so obviously Madea is going to be the star of it. But I feel like some of the good lines should have been given to other characters, not just Madea. Let's see. So that was really the quote unquote cons of the film. And we're almost 20 minutes in, but I will say, we're getting into the good stuff. It was Netflix, so I felt like there was definitely no filter, a lot more profanity and whatnot than I expected from a Madea film, I'll say that much. But, let's see. Side note, if Tyler Perry ever, I don't know if he has the copyright or trademark for Hello, but if he actually sold the sign that Madea had on the outside of her door, I feel like that would bring in a lot of money, because I know a lot of people who will probably pay for that and have it hanging outside of their door or on the wall in the kitchen or something. That was a cool sign. I mean, I would happily have it and put it on the wall, so whenever I do live streams, you'll see it in the background. So yeah, the Hello sign is something I would definitely feel he should manufacture. Jump into the end credits. As someone who never watched the Beyonce homecoming performance or the making of, I have no real thoughts on the end credit scene, because it was just Madea doing as what the video I got last summer when the movie was filmed was, and that's Tyler as Madea, dressed as Beyonce, doing a spoof of the Homecoming performance. I think they even had moments from the end credits where Madea was literally in the place of Beyonce talking with the crew and everything. So I guess that was the making of Homecoming. It was, I chuckled a couple times, but I was kind of like done with the movie by that point. So I'm like, meh, this wasn't an MCU end credit scene. But if you're a Madea / Beyonce fan, I feel like you will enjoy it. I believe at the time of me recording this video, which is almost 10 p.m. on February 25th, I think Tyler Perry is trending just because of the end credit scene alone. And it's not like an end credit scene. It's basically when the credits are rolling, you see, you know, Madea performing on the side. Let's see. Now on to the good stuff. Madea was in top form. Said that already. It was great. Madea brought the laughs, but definitely had great words of wisdom throughout. I think my favorite scene was it's a toss between talking to Laura in her room, you know, when Madea was trying to hide her weed, and basically talking about how, you know, maybe it wouldn't be a bad thing to open up to Davi and possibly even move to, you know, Ireland with him or something like that. Or when she was talking to Mrs. Brown about how kids need to live their own lives. You don't always have to plot things out for them because eventually they grow up and find their own path in life. So yeah, good stuff. Actually, as I'm recording this video, somebody sent me a link from Entertainment Weekly, and they did a piece on Tyler Perry dressed as Beyonce for the end credits. So there you go. Yeah, I already said they kind of did a setup at the very end of the movie where Mrs. Brown, like, you ought to come over and visit me and the family on the farm sometime. How about this? Mrs. Brown and Madea do Europe. So there we go. Because Brendan O'Carroll, I believe, said in the interview how he'd love to work with Tyler again in the future on a project. They made a nod to Diary of a Mad Black Woman in 2004, where where Madea took a saw and cut everything in half. I think that was in like the first scene with Laura in the kitchen talking about the divorce and how Sylvia didn't get as much as, you know, the family thought she would. So yeah, that was a cool reference. Let's see. Yeah, two more things to talk about. The Rosa Parks flashback was hilarious. For some reason, Mabel was talking in like a, you know, old black and white TV style. Archie, are you there? Oh no, did they leave together? But then as soon as she went to the NAACP office, where's Rose? Where's Rose? It's like, that sounded like the Madea we know. So the funny part was, I believe there must have been like a mannequin dressed to be like Rosa Parks. So it was hilarious to see Mabel on the outside of the bus window, slashing the tires of the bus and whatnot, and recreating that moment from the play where she was taking photos outside of the window and basically saying it's 1955 and this is an iPhone, wait, an A phone. Well, I will post this video whenever I get a chance. So it was just for laughs. I know that Tyler said this movie was kind of a backdoor pilot to the Mabel series, and that this scene itself wasn't to, you know, connect to Mabel, because the more Madea spoke in the scene, the more you can tell this woman is barely remembering the details. But then she pulled out her phone and showed Ellie and Laura the photo / video proving that she was telling the truth. So it was just supposed to be a funny spoof, and I loved every second of it. This was great. Mr. Brown on fire, definitely the funniest scene of the movie to me. The first 5 minutes, I mean, I feel like some of the best moments of the movie were shown in the trailers, and given that I have watched at least 25 different interviews that Tyler Perry has done this week, along with reading articles, especially I think it was the Variety one, where he pretty much detailed every beat of the movie, from the, you know, emotional moment with Mrs. Brown and Madea talking about families and the different topics that will be discussed in the film. You know, it felt like I knew every beat of the movie, but I had a good time watching it. You know, from Mrs. Brown getting hooked on those chocolates and Mr. Brown getting high, which I felt was done in the play a little bit better. I think what set the play apart was definitely the musical numbers, because in the play you had like 15 minutes of Madea setting everybody straight, and then like 30 minutes of nothing but music, and it was great. That's not to say the movie was bad. I might do a video kind of breaking down, okay, which one did I think was better, the play or the movie. I think the play, here's how I would rank it. I would put this movie above Family Funeral, but I would still put it below Farewell Play. This was a good adaptation, but I feel like it didn't need to be as long as it was. It was a good time, but there are times where I'm like, because at one point, I think towards the basketball scene where Tim and Madea are just talking on the court, that's when I increased the speed to 1.25. My nephew was like, why are you doing that? Because he's talking too much. I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to just be done with the movie. And then he made me turn it back to normal because, you know, most of the time, if I don't watch a show live, I will watch it online at double speed. So I'm used to it. And not to mention, I can catch up. Even when there's the pauses are skipped through when I'm watching it fast forward, I can pick up on the words. But then I remember I'm sitting beside an 11-year-old child who's not like me, so I had to cut it back on normal. But yeah, I feel like even though I really spoke in detail about the cons or the things I felt weren't done as well about the movie, it was still a good movie. An 8 out of 10 is a solid score despite all the problems I had with it. Now, there are probably people out there who feel this is easily the best Madea film. It's a 10 out of 10, no complaints. But that's not how I do things. I will talk about the good and the bad, but this was definitely a great movie. If this was the final Madea film, this was a great way to go out. I really enjoyed it. I feel like towards the end of the film, you know, like when they had the big moment post-graduation where they're just talking with each other, Madea wasn't in the scene, and that was good because that scene didn't need to have Madea in it. It was all about, you know, Davi and Laura agreeing to get married, and you know, Davi having the moment where Mrs. Brown gives her blessing to stay, you know, in the States as opposed to going home to run the family farm. And I'm not going over every flipping detail of the movie because, well, watch it for yourself. Seriously, it's a great movie. I feel like I said, I will definitely watch it again over the weekend. What were some of your favorite moments? I mean, I feel like there were a lot to talk about. Maybe I'll do a live stream over the weekend after people have had time to watch it, so we can just discuss it, you know, face to face, figuratively speaking. But yeah, I give it an 8 out of 10. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What did you think of Madea Homecoming? Do you think Tyler Perry will do another film? Do you hope Tyler Perry will do another film as Madea? Do you think this film will do better than A Fall from Grace in terms of streaming numbers on Netflix? I feel like this was definitely a better movie. I think the first half was better than the second half because the first half was definitely just chunked full of laughter, you know, like, oh, this joke, that joke. But I think that the second half is where like the meat is in regards to like story. But like I said, the Tim airing out the family dirty laundry at the graduation, that's one of those moments where I feel like, yeah, definitely a mom or auntie would have got up on that stage and knocked me out in front of everybody, because some things are better left not aired out. Seriously, that was just pretty messed up. All right, but as always, like and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts. If you want to donate, PayPal or Cash App me. But regardless, thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next one.